Hi, my name is Marie Rowe, and welcome to my presentation on ReactJS. So, just a little precursor to the presentation. There's a lot of information out there about React, and there's really a lot that you can do within it depending on your level as a developer. And we'll talk about a couple of the basic things that you need to have, and if you have those basic things, or if you're further along in those basics, then you can kind of start, it's kind of a place where you can go at your own pace. You can either be fully involved, or you can start just by doing a couple of things within React. And so I definitely recommend after this checking out reactjs.org and just kind of looking into where you fall within React and going from there. So first of all, what is React? So if you've never heard of ReactJS, it is a JavaScript library, and it was created by Facebook about 6 years ago. A developer from Facebook created it, and then Facebook still maintains it along with some other developers and companies that help to maintain React. It's used to build user interfaces and also front-end applications. So why React is so important in just a JavaScript library in general is that when you're scripting language through JavaScript, you are wanting to make and control this dynamic web content, like animated and interactive features for the website or application. So we're doing a lot of important things when we're using JavaScript, and there are just times when you're working on code that's repetitive, or you're coming across a pretty common piece of code. For example, like one of those slideshow galleries or something, right? So slideshows have been around for a while, so someone's probably written a code about it. So you wouldn't need to reinvent the wheel or spend your time rewriting or recreating this code for a slideshow. You could go to a JavaScript library, and some other developers already created the code for that. So you could grab that from the library and work on it within your page. It's kind of similar to, if like you're baking chocolate chip cookies, you could spend all day, if it's your first time, trying to figure out the ratio of flour and sugar and butter and eggs and whatever, or you could just grab a recipe from someone, and you could eliminate a lot of wasted time to make these cookies. It's similar to working within a JavaScript library. So also, React is one of the most popular frameworks in the industry right now that's not really a framework. So you'll see a lot of debate online about whether or not React is more than just, besides a library. Definitely at its core is a JavaScript library, but there's some debate about the use of it as a framework too. But so you may see that, but React is at its core, it's a JavaScript library. So what should you know before using React? So you should definitely know basic JavaScript functions, arrays, conditionals, etc. because again, JavaScript library. So you don't want to be learning basic JavaScript at the same time that you're trying to learn React, if you can help it, right? So it's helpful to have a solid grasp on JavaScript before you incorporate React into your development skills. It's also important to be familiar with the ES6 version of JavaScript classes, high order arrays, arrow functions, because a lot of that is used. There's a lot of code within React that uses classes. In fact, most of the examples that we're going to see here in the presentation uses a class, so you need to have an understanding of what those are. You also want a basic understanding of HTML, CSS, and DOM. So why would you use React? Well, React will make it easier for you to use JavaScript. It also makes it easy to work with teams. So you can collaborate on a project and work on a same page, but everyone can be working on a different component or separate components, like the drop-down menu. Someone else can be working on a slide bar, and someone else can be working on a form. And you can collaborate as a team with React without having everybody within like this same code base becoming like confused on what they're working on and interacting with each other's code. And anyway, it just gets messy. So React is a good place to work with your team. It's also has well-established support because it is, if not the most popular, it's definitely one of the most popular libraries right now. And the best developers in the world are using it, and some of the most popular sites are also collaborating on it. Here you'll see, here's a list, just like a small sampling of websites that use React right now, or they've used it to create their sites either partially or completely. So you can see some pretty big names there and pretty big companies that are using React. So let's see. Next, something that's unique about React is it uses this syntax extension, which is called JSX. It's recommended, but it's not required. So you don't have to use it, but they recommend that you use it because it makes it easier to write and add HTML within React. So you can kind of see this example, and you see how there's this, it almost looks like this combination of HTML and JavaScript. So JSX, which stands for JavaScript XML, allows you to write HTML in React. And so you can write HTML elements in JavaScript, and then you can place them in the document object model. And you don't have to, and it means that you don't have to use like the create element or the append child. It just converts HTML tags into React elements. And so it just makes it easier if you're going to use React to write, if you're going to write applications within React, you'll want to use it. And it just allows you to write HTML directly into JavaScript code. So it's really useful. Next is the virtual DOM. And the virtual DOM is a copy of the site's document object model. It uses, so what happens is React uses this virtual DOM to see the different parts of the actual, the original DOM, what needs to change, and when an event happens, and you can selectively update the DOM. So just kind of like imagine if you have a user that has a comment that they need to make on a blog post. I don't know if you remember a while ago if you'd ever made a comment on a blog post or a news site, and then you hit the comment button, and then the whole page like has to refresh, restructure itself so it can add your comment. And so that just uses time and processing power to make the updates, just to make a comment. And so with React, on the other hand, it's kind of what a virtual DOM is like this blueprint. And so what it does is it looks at the blueprint and identifies where the change is being made, and then it can just go into that section because of the blueprint on the it matches it up and just says, okay, this is the part that we need where the change was. So instead of rebuilding the whole DOM, we're just going to make a change to this one section. So it takes less computing power, and it doesn't take as much time to load the page. Which, obviously if you're just making one comment, you're one person, on like not very complex blog, then it's not that big of a deal. But then when you get into working with more complex sites, like Facebook, for example, is a good example. If you're on a Facebook uses that virtual DOM through React commenting, all those people commenting on threads, and it doesn't have to refresh the page every time someone wants to comment on a thread. So you can realize that if you think about that, all the people that are doing that, how much time, really adds up to being a lot of saved time and saved power. So let's go ahead and just take a look at the React page. So this is reactjs.org that I mentioned at the beginning, and this is where you would come to get into React. So you could do one of two things. You could just go ahead and get started. If you click on that, it's going to take you to a couple of different ways that you can get started. So you can try it out first, and you can do that through CodePen, through Sandbox, or Glitch, but I'm pretty sure that Brother Blizzard's going to say don't use Glitch. But you could anyway go there. If you prefer to use a text editor, you can do it. They have a section. You can add it to a website, to a page, and you can also create a new React app. So they have a lot of examples, and there's also an extra tutorial if you feel like you need to go at a little bit of a slower pace. There's this overview, and I read it's pretty good. She kind of walks you through a little bit slower the steps. So also here, if you're going to get started, before you even get onto React, you can take a tutorial. And there are two ways that you can do a tutorial through React. So you can do step by step, and so it will walk you through. So you can go step by step here, and it will show you, you can see this example. It says the smallest React example, right? So here's a very small basic example, and you can look at it on CodePen, and they have these, they always let you kind of do a practice as it walks you through. So here we kind of talked about JSX, but it will talk to you again about JSX and why you should use it, and it will give you these different reasons, so you can wrap things in curly braces, for one thing. It says you can put any valid JavaScript expression inside, and then it walks you through the different things that might be new to you, obviously, because you've never used React before, like elements, components, and props, and what a state is, how to use it. So rendering. There's another thing. If you are someone that learns by doing hands-on, then you can also take this tutorial, and it will walk you through as you physically put in the code. So it'll help you to make this this tic-tac-toe where you can interact with it. So what's going to do here is, this is the original, the base code. So if I go to this tutorial, right, it'll tell me, okay, this is what we're going to do. That gives you the ways. It even tells you how to set up. Okay, and then I can go back to the home page, and if I scroll down a little bit, I can see that there's a live JSX editor that I can also try out, and it will show me the difference between, I can unclick this and I can see what it looks like to not be using JSX. Click on it, and then, it also lets me type in, so I can change some things and see how that affects the editor here, and so I can make a few changes. So this is definitely the very beginning, very scratch the surface examples. Even these projects here that are example projects of React. If your goal is to go into front-end development, everything says that this is what you need to be learning. So brush up on the basics of JavaScript and become familiar with ES6 so that you can really utilize this resource.